I say it with a passion. As I pull off in the Aston. Don't nobody like his ass, huh? Tried to cover up and tell the people, go Brandon. But we know what they saying, though. You can hear the chant in every post. Don't nobody want this commie cause we not in China. Everybody hated Trump and now they out to catch a body. That's what they get for treating us like we in Squid Games. Green light, mandate, like he's insane. These times.
Would you take President on inflation tax? Do you think inflation is a political liability?
That's a great asset. More inflation. What a stupid son of a bitch.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Benny Johnson here, your boy Benny, The Benny Show. We are live now. We are practicing our brand new medium here. Our team has been working day and night, night and day. Day and night, night and day, and we have done a better job in this studio than the Biden administration has done with Ukraine or our border or our currency or literally anything in this country. Ladies and gentlemen, we are so happy to finally be sort of christening our new studio, but once again, as always, get your piping hot cup of coffee and join us for the roundup of the things that you can expect to see today, in-depth analysis and funny commentary and clips, and most importantly, optimism. Ladies and gentlemen, optimism. We are an optimistic channel. We see the world the way that our starry-eyed founding fathers saw the world, saying that we could create a better world if we just do away with the cancerous, treasonous, fraudulent, illegitimate, and quite frankly fascistic ruling class here in this country who are indefinitely corrupt, and make something new and beautiful, a place where all people can prosper and all freedom can blossom anew. So that's what we are seeking to do on this channel, ladies and gentlemen. We are seeking to do that on this channel, and so we have a roundup of the day's news, and we have a roundup of the things that you should be paying attention to, stuff you got to know to be smart. And again, I'm your host, Benny Johnson. If you support what we do here, please click like, click subscribe on our channels, and share this video. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get started. I am old enough, meaning that I am 4 weeks old, okay? I'm 4 weeks old. I'm older than 4 weeks, all right? Because I am old enough to remember when a man called in to Joe Brandon on Christmas and said, "Dear Joe Brandon, let's go Brandon." And then Joe Brandon said on Christmas, because he doesn't know the Let's Go Brandon chant, because he's kept in such a nursing home bubble in the White House, Joe Brandon said, "Let's go Brandon, I agree." You remember that? Now, the reaction to "Let's go Brandon, I agree," the reaction to that, the guy whose name is Jared Schmeck, he's a father from Oregon, called up Joe Biden. We've had him on the show. The reaction to that from the left was, I'm going to try not to yell because I have a little itch in my throat, so I'm going to try not to yell on the show, but the reaction was meltdown. Do you remember? Right-winger uses slur and curses at the president, says, "Let's go Brandon." Rah! Everyone screamed and they raged and they said, "How could you do that to kindly old Joe Brandon? How could you do it? We want better in politics. We need to strive for more. We need to strive for a simpler, quieter time, a time of unity, and a time of less swearing," right? Joe Biden isn't about swearing. And they went after this dad, this dude, Jared Schmeck, who's awesome, by the way. We're huge fans of him. They went after this father and attacked him and viciously, savaged the man. And then the same people yesterday watched a clip of Joe Biden not using a slur, not using a funny internet chant, which is what "Let's Go Brandon" is, not using a meme, which is what happened to him. He got memed, right? He got sucked into the meme world. They watched Joe Biden literally call a Fox News reporter for asking him a question about inflation, the most important question in the country today, because inflation undergirds the entire value of our economy, the value of our dollar. If we can even, what's the most important question? Our border? Our military? None of it's possible without having a strong dollar. Then you truly lose this country. Then our country becomes a third world country overnight. So Peter Doocy asked about inflation. And then Joe Brandon, for the audacity of Peter Doocy practicing something we used to call journalism in this country, Joe Brandon calls him an SOB. We try to have a family show here, so we're not going to say the words, but you can watch right here on your screen the clip 1 of Joe Brandon, the man who's above swearing, right? Calling a reporter directly to his face. I mean, you hear it clear as a bell. A SOB. Watch.
Would you take questions on inflation? Do you think inflation is a political liability?
That's a great asset. More inflation. What a stupid son of a bitch.
Okay, so yeah, there you go. So Joe Biden says to Peter Doocy that you are an SOB for asking questions. Now, Peter Doocy is often the guy in the press pool who's doing the singular role that he's supposed to be doing there, which isn't to be Joe Biden, the using his tongue to clean the mud off the bottom of Joe Biden's boots, right? The rest of the press corps are quite literally and enigmatically making North Koreans jealous of the fact that they have such a compliant press corps. The North Koreans are sitting there polishing their new nuclear weapons, watching the American press going, how do we get that? How do we get that compliant? With the exception of one person, Peter Doocy, and the occasional Newsmax reporter. We're proud to be part of the Newsmax family on this show. They are watching Peter Doocy and saying, wow, who's that? What's he doing? It's called journalism. It's called practicing journalism. And the left used to say that they're for this, right? You remember in the Trump era, you would have Jim Acosta screaming, why do you eat babies? Or whatever, right? Whatever Jim Acosta would scream that day. Why are my diapers wet? Jim Acosta would scream that at President Trump everywhere he went, right? Everywhere he went. Why, why did I go number 2 in my pants? And so Jim Acosta would yell that at Trump, and Trump would say, you have fake news, you suck, shut up, gotta go see the fake news. And Donald Trump would say that and move along. And then what would happen is Jim Acosta would go wall to wall on every Sunday show, on every CNN show. You could take gondolas down the streets of Washington, D.C. I know it because I was living there at the time. Gondolas down the streets of Washington, D.C. in the tears, the flooding tears that came from Jim Acosta's weeping on cable news about the attacks on the free press. Okay? And then what do you get? What do you get last night when the president of the United States, by the way, something Donald Trump did not physically do, face-to-face, Donald Trump never did this, face-to-face calls him an SOB. I'd like to hear what Peter Doocy's mother thinks about that, by the way. Like, what does Peter Doocy's mom think about that? Peter Doocy's dad is also on Fox News. He does the morning show. And so there you have the president right to the face, as audible as you can hear me right now, saying that Peter Doocy's a SOB. So what is Peter Doocy's response? We want to play it for you. This is a complete class act. Here is the initial response from Peter Doocy right after the fact, minutes after he's called this by the president. Let's play clip 2.
I think we have young Mr. Doocy with us right now. You heard Dana's comments and everyone's comments, Peter. Have you been called by the White House or the president and asked to come to the Oval Office tomorrow for an interview?
No. And I don't think that that's coming either. But what's crazy about this is in the longer version of the clip, there was a group of reporters that were all gathered. We listened to him explain the Competition Council, which is the reason that he's having this meeting with most of the cabinet. And somebody shouted out a question about Russia, and the president said, I'm not going to take questions right now about anything off topic. So I shouted out. Something that's not on my 2 pages of questions about crime. Okay, what about inflation? Do you think inflation is a political liability in the midterms? And then he said that, and I couldn't even hear him because people were shouting at us to get out, but somebody came up to me in the briefing room a few minutes later and said, did you hear what the president said? And I said, no, what? They said, he called you a stupid SOB. And I said, did he say SOB? And the person said, no.
He did the elongated version.
You know?
Prime time?
Yep.
So, Doocy, I think the president's right. You are a stupid SOB.
Yeah, nobody has fact-checked him yet and said it's not true.
No one's given Pinocchios for that one. No, but so you're now, I guess, everyone's talking about you. You're going to be known as the stupid SOB guy. I mean, before you were like the hair guy with the blonde hair. Now you're stupid SOB. Is this something you're embracing, Peter?
Do I have a choice?
I don't think so. I mean, I think you just have to walk around for the rest of your career as the stupid SOB.
No, but it is something great that you were called and named by a president.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that that will be in the history books.
Yeah, I think that
if we
Peter,
still have them.
And Peter, you might already have like a book title.
Yes.
Right? Or a chapter title at least. I do have a question. This happened last week with Jackie Heinrich. Happened again today. Like, is there something going on at the White House where there's more press availabilities that you're getting these hot mic moments, or is there just a lot of pressure because of everything that's going on? Do you notice anything different?
Well, you know, the White House and the communications officials here had been signaling last week when they had their first year in office anniversary that they were going to take a different approach with reporters. And we thought that meant after he did the 2-hour press conference, oh, well, he's just going to be available for Q&A more often. But maybe it's more stuff like this.
Might be.
Well, it's good that you can smile.
Well, if I don't smile, I'm just going to be a ball of tears, and I can't because I have to do a hit with Brett Baer in 10 minutes. So.
All right, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
Dude, I gotta tell you, I would be so proud if Peter Doocy was my son. I'm a father, and watching him, he is a class act. Now, I've chilled with Peter Doocy before in Washington, D.C. The reporter circles are small. Peter Doocy is, I wouldn't call him like a friend, but I would say that I've been able to engage with him socially in the past. This guy's a really nice person. No arrogance, no effrontery. That he clearly comes from a family that's had a very successful time in broadcast, but the way to being and staying successful is staying humble. What an incredible response. Can we give like a hallelujah for Peter Doocy? And can you like tell me in the comment section what you think of Peter Doocy and his work so far in the Biden regime's first 1 year and then the work on the campaign? You may remember Peter Doocy was the only guy ever asking Joe Biden tough questions on the campaign. And through all of that and all the hissing, the thing you don't see is that the entire press corps turns on Peter Doocy, right? The entire press corps hisses at him. They hate the fact they are all part of the regime. They hate the fact that there's one guy who's actually practicing journalism, and he's killing them with kindness. He really is. What a class act that dude is. What an incredible way to respond. He said, hey, there hasn't been a fact check that I'm a dumb SOB, right? You gotta love it. And this is, by the way, like what Peter Doocy's like behind the scenes. Super chill, super humble, super nice dude. And honestly, I guess I'm just like so proud of the fact that he's just like his stock in Peter Doocy is going through the roof. Fox is lucky to have him. He's done an amazing job, and the job wasn't finished yet. In fact, Peter Doocy, that very same night, received a phone call from Joe Biden himself. A phone call from Joe Biden himself. Now, I know this is a slightly longer clip, so maybe we could pare it down a little bit after the actual phone call. But hey, listen, Peter Doocy went on Fox News late last night, I think it was the 10 o'clock hour, and he said, hey, Joe Biden just called me. Do you want to hear what Joe Biden said to me? What did Joe Brandon say when he gives Peter Doocy a phone call on his cell phone? It sounds like pretty shocking. I've never heard of Joe Biden doing this. You may remember trying to get the illegal and unconstitutional voter fraud forever bill done. Joe Biden famously didn't even call a single Republican to try and vote for it. Didn't call a single Republican, but Joe Biden picked up the phone, probably a rotary phone or a record player, and well, he definitely had someone dial the number for him, and then said into the phone call this to Peter Doocy. Peter Doocy said so. Let's play the clip. It's clip 10. Peter Doocy talking to Hannity about the phone call he had with Joe Biden that night.
Stupid son of a bitch. Mr. Unity strikes again. In all seriousness, Joe Biden really shouldn't be casting stones from an extremely fragile glass house. Here with reaction, Fox News White House correspondent Peter Doocy has an update on the story. First, what was your reaction? Words don't matter to me. I remember during the Trump years, everybody would feign the vapors. Oh, the president said this. I think I know you pretty well. You're a pretty tough guy. What was your reaction initially when you heard what happened?
My reaction, Sean, was delayed because, as you can see in that clip, the Biden staff were ushering us out. They were telling us, okay, thank you, time to go. And you can see right there, people are just starting to move towards the door, myself included. It wasn't until we went to the basement and then outside and then back to the press room that somebody said, hey, did you hear what the president said about you? I said, no. What did he say? He said he called you a stupid SOB. And I was thinking, I did not hear that. And I went downstairs and I opened up my phone and he did. And so my response was delayed. But Sean, and we have some news tonight. After years of clips of the president and I kind of mixing it up on the campaign trail and during the transition and here at the White House, within about an hour of that exchange, he called my cell phone and he said, it's nothing personal, pal. And we went back and forth and we were talking about just kind of moving forward. And I made sure to tell him that I'm always going to try to ask something different than what everybody else is asking. And he said, you've got to. And that's a quote from the president, so I'll keep doing it.
All right, I want to be your negotiator here. And I would like to negotiate a 20-minute sit-down with you and Biden, one-on-one. I think that would be, you know, I'm a Christian. I believe in forgiveness. Okay. Did he apologize?
He cleared the air, and I appreciate it.
All right, so Joe Biden tells Peter Doocy there in the clip, hey, nothing personal, pal. Nothing personal. It does. I mean, you can tell this is a true story because it's literally exactly how Joe Biden would talk. Nothing. Hey, who am I talking with? Corn Pop? Who am I talking with? Corn Pop? Hey, listen. You can't use any of the napalm in the diving board. Make sure that Vladimir Putin knows it's a minor incursion. You had a minor incursion into my press conference, pal. You're a son of a ballot box, and now it's next for no problem, pal. That's exactly how the conversation went. I have a source that leaked me that exact transcript. So, Joe Biden says, nothing personal, pal. When you call him an SOB, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't buy it. I don't buy it because Joe Biden, much like 4 or 5 or 7 different times this week, has had to go back when he's shoved his own diseased foot with the kind of like horrific, you know, like the horrific old person, like disgusting, smelly foot. He's shoved his own foot like up his own mouth. Joe Biden's had to walk back comments on Ukraine this week. Joe Biden's had to walk back comments on the election this week. And now Joe Biden's having to walk back calling a reporter an SOB. Joe Biden doesn't like Peter Doocy. It's pretty obvious. This is clip 3, ladies and gentlemen. Clip 3, Joe Biden complained about Peter Doocy's job as a reporter last week. He just didn't curse at him. Let's play the clip.
How many more hours am I doing this? I'm happy to stick around. You always ask me the nicest questions. I know you do.
All right.
None of them make a lot of sense to me, but
well, let's try.
Fire away. Come on.
A new year. Why are you trying so hard in your first year to pull the country so far to the left?
Well, I'm not. I don't know what you consider to be too far to the left. If in fact we're talking about making sure that we had the money for COVID, making sure we had the money to put together the bipartisan infrastructure, making sure we were able to provide for those things that, in fact, would significantly reduce the burden on working class people, but they have to continue to work hard. I don't know how that is pointed to the left. If you may recall, you guys have been trying to convince me that I am Bernie Sanders. I'm not. I like him, but I'm not Bernie Sanders. I'm not a socialist. I'm a mainstream Democrat, and I have been. And mainstream Democrats have overwhelmed. If you notice, the 48 of the 50 Democrats supported me in the Senate on virtually everything I've asked.
Okay, so why are we spending so much time on this specific? I mean, one, it's funny, it's funny. But why are we spending so much time on this specific element of Joe Biden's mental decline? Well, because I have checked with a number of people who have varying degrees of extreme medical sophistication when it comes to dealing with and caring with those who are in late-stage mental decline. And part of the very common and consistent patterns of late-stage mental decline, and we know that Joe Biden has had 2 aneurysms. That's in his medical record. We know that Hunter Biden's private messages say that Joe Biden recovered from dementia, whatever that means. Now, who knows? But it's there. It's there in the, it's there, right? It's there in the reporting. Look it up for yourself. A good article on this on the Daily Wire. But hey, listen, we've watched it. We've watched it. And one of the signs of late-stage mental decline is snapping, right? Like snapping. Realizing, getting frustrated, and not being able to handle the incoming information and and lashing out. And so what you're seeing here is really what experts have told us is customary. It is textbook. It is what happens when you start to lose your mental faculties. When you start to lose your mental faculties, then you really lose your ability to control yourself, to control your own bodily functions, and to control the rooms around you and the elements in your directly in front of you, which is why it's so scary that there's a red nuclear button right in front of Joe Biden as we watch Ukraine descend into madness, our border descend into madness, the enemies of America get into a striking position around the world stage. As you watch our stock market descend into madness, are you tracking your 401ks right now? Not good, ladies and gentlemen. So what you see is a man who's clearly in total mental decline, snapping at reporters, incapable of following basic trains of thought, and it doesn't even have to be a reporter like Peter Doocy who's actually doing his job, and in a just world, Peter Doocy would have a Pulitzer for the job that he's doing right now in the White House. It is a similar and almost more embarrassing answer when he gets asked a question by a Yahoo reporter last week. Now, this is a Yahoo reporter who is like, if the Democratic Party was a car, this reporter would have his mouth glued to the muffler of the car, sucking in the exhaust and the noxious fumes out of the back of the DNC. This reporter is such a complete and total little NPC, little gray NPC for the Democratic Party. I will ask questions to make sure that I get responses for my masters at the Democratic National Committee. He doesn't have editors. He has masters at the Democratic National Committee who had him ask a question about Republicans using school choice and school freedom in order to liberate their kids from COVID tyranny and COVID dictatorship, which is our next story, actually, how Canada is fighting COVID dictatorship in an incredible way with thousands and tens of thousands of trucks. But before we get to that, let's go to the question that Joe Biden was asked and I couch it to say this. I'm not trying to dunk on this reporter necessarily. I don't know this guy. The guy is just a classic bootlicking hack in the media with his mouth glued to the Democratic Party's muffler. I'm saying this because this is Joe Biden answering a friendly question. A friendly question. We are questioning the fitness of Joe Biden. This is what it sounds like when Joe Biden, this is clip 4, guys, when Joe Biden is asked a question by a friendly reporter, a easy, slam dunk, put the ball on the tee, knock it out of the park. This is his response. Go.
Could school reopenings or closures become a potent midterm issue for Republicans to win back the suburbs?
Oh, I think it could be, but I hope in God that look, maybe I'm kidding myself, but as time goes on, the voter who is just trying to figure out, as I said, how to take care of their family, put 3 squares on the table, stay safe, be able to pay their mortgage or their rent, etc., is becoming much more informed on the motives of some of the political players and some of the political parties. And I think that they are not going to be as susceptible to believing some of the outlandish things that have been said and continue to be said. You know, every president, not necessarily in the first 12 months, but every president the first couple of years, every president, of the last presidents, at least 4 of them, have had polling numbers that are 44% favorable. So it's this idea that, but you all, not you all, but now it is, well, Biden's at, one poll showed him at 33%. The average is 44, 45%. One poll him at 49%. I mean, the idea that the American public are trying to sift their way through what's real and what's fake. And I don't think I've never seen a time when the political coverage, the choice of what political coverage the voter looks to has as much impact on as what they believe. They go to get reinforced.
So I'm not the smartest guy, okay? I'm not the smartest guy. I went to community college, all right? I went to community college, and then I went to a state school, University of Iowa. But if I were to be doing this live, and I were to do this live with you, and you were to tune into live, and I was answering a question like Joe Biden just did, right? I was answering a question, I was going, how do I say this? How do I say this? It depends. If you were to tune in and see that, you would be like, what is this creepy meditation? Is this some type of Alzheimer's practice struggle session? What am I watching? The president is not well. The president is not with us. We've done 20 minutes now, 30 minutes now on how the president is not with us, outlining in detail the disaster that is Joe Biden. You've all known this. If you're watching this live, you know this. But it's very important to make the case that medically the man is quite unfit for the office. And so when you watch the saber rattling, when you watch the desperation of what they're about to do with the economy or any more variants or any of the true totalitarianism of this administration, know that it's not coming from a good place. It's coming from a broken place. It's coming from a broken man. And it's coming from a man who is in the end stages of lashing out. Joe Biden is a sad, broken man. He is lashing out because he doesn't understand the world around him, and he's scared. So that's what's happening in this country. There are people who are lashing out, driving out in our friends to the north, Canada. Now, you've heard me on the show many times advocate for a northern border wall. I'm okay. It's not a racial thing. I want northern border walls. I want southern border walls. Baby, border walls, man. Very cool. Very pro-border wall, 100%. But boy, these Canadian truckers and their actions in order to fight the tyranny and the COVID dictatorship that has truly a death grip on the nation of Canada, turning the nation of Canada into what I think is one of the largest prison colonies in the world. Canadian truckers are fighting back in a way that only they could. They are driving Tens of thousands of them, 50,000 may be reported, driving across the country to the nation's capital in order to shut down Canada. You think that the supply chain problems are bad here? Take 50,000 truckers off the road in a country that's just a small fraction of the size of America. That's Canada. And you are going to see a proper collapse in Canada. Here we go. Canadian truckers, I'm reading to you from Reuters. Reuters.com, published January 23rd, 2022. Truckers fighting government vaccine mandate march to Canadian capital, here on Reuters. A convoy of truckers started their march from Vancouver on Sunday to the Canadian capital of Ottawa, protesting the government's COVID-19 vaccine mandate for truckers, which the industry say would create a driver shortage. Truckers, under the banner of the Freedom Convoy 2022, have raised $2.7 million, by Sunday through a GoFundMe campaign to fight the mandate. The funds raised would be used to help the cost of fuel, food, and lodgings, and the GoFundMe page said. The convoy is expected to reach Ottawa on January 29th. Okay, that would be this weekend. That's Saturday, if I'm recalling correctly. The trucking industry is vital to ensure a smooth flow of goods, since more than 2/3 of the goods in Canada travel annually from the United States on the roads, not by train, by road. That's $650 billion Canadian in goods. Whew, that is a huge amount of the industry, and also, as we just said, 2/3 of the country's goods. So what would happen if 2/3 of all the stuff in your stores were just deleted? Boom, like that. What would happen if 2/3 of everything in your store gone? Well, it would be panic time. It would be shelter time. It'd be homesteading time. It would be like Patriot seed vault time. As many as 32,000, or 20% of Canadian American cross-border trucks drivers, may be taken off the roads due to the mandate, the Canadian Truck Driver Alliance says. Okay, so 20% of your truckers, 2/3 of your food, 20% of your truckers, and it's not like you can just drive a truck, okay? You can't just go in and say, hey, want to drive a truck? Give me the keys. Have you ever looked inside of these cabs? Have you ever been in these things? I mean, these are complicated machines, 18 wheels, carrying something that is the weight of your house down the road. Try backing up one of those things. It takes a very long time to learn. It takes a very long time to learn. It takes experts to do it, and we honor all the truck drivers and everybody who works with their hands and their brains on this show. The brain working is something that the Biden administration, of course, doesn't have, and that's why they are totally in favor of vaccine mandates, even though we, thank God, have a court that still is bound by the Constitution in this country. They struck down unenforceable and illegal vaccine mandates on our working class. Here in Canada, we will see exactly what happens. Here is what it looks like when 50,000 trucks go flying down the roads to the Canadian capital of Ottawa. Clip 5, truckers' massive convoy. Or I guess it's just playing right now. That's what it looks like, and it is extremely, extremely majestic. I'm a big fan. You can see there the signs for freedom, and you can see the signs there against the Canadian regime. The regime is pretty pathetic. It's run by a guy named Justin Trudeau, who's just such a loser and is such an embarrassment, quite frankly, to Canada on the national stage. I get a lot of messages from Canadians and a lot of people thanking us for covering this. So we're going to keep covering it. This is clearly a big thing in Canada, and it's something that must be fought. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has resisted industry pressure to delay the mandates since it was first announced. Yes, because it's all about compliance. Ladies and gentlemen, the alarming amount of just depressing small dick energy from these COVID tyrants as COVID tyranny collapses around the world, they're going to get more desperate. We're sad to say this, quite frankly, because as we'll get to in our next story here about black voters and their collapse of support for Joe Biden, we're sad to say that it's going to get worse. We are an optimistic show. We love this country. We want to stay bright-eyed and optimistic. But ladies and gentlemen, it's just going to get worse because these people will not be giving up power easily, freely, readily. They have the tyrannical power that they've always wanted. In the 1980s, when the Soviet Union collapsed, they looked across to the other ocean to see another form of government where they could take control. They were always communists. They were so sad to see the Soviet Union collapse. Our academics, our press, our ruling class loved the Soviet Union. They wanted the Soviet Union to exist, and they wanted it to exist here. They imported some of the best minds from the Soviet Union, and then they integrated our systems here in this country. And now what they've been doing in China for the last 30 years has been creating, 30, 40 years, has been creating the type of government that is the fascistic government that they wish to export to our nation. The ruling class does not like to give up power. They want uniparty. They want control of speech. They want control of movement. They want social credit. They want struggle sessions. They want you to be poor and themselves to be rich and to hold all the power. Fascism is at its very nature the fusion of the monopoly of power and violence that the state has with the monopoly that corporations have. And they fuse those together, and that is the definition of fascism. And so now what you're seeing in the COVID moment, the post-COVID moment, is that fusion. What you see in China is a state where no business can operate without the governing good wishes of the Chinese Communist Party. So the Chinese Communist Party can say whether you can do business, what kind of business you can do. It can punish you if you get too rich. It can take everything from you, including what we call in this country civil rights. We call them civil rights or inalienable rights because inalienable means cannot be taken from you. Cannot be taken from you means that they are given to you by God, by someone other than government, because the government comes and goes, changes. The government doesn't last. These people, these rights last. The divine spark that is in your soul, that is given to you by a creator, that's where you get your rights from. It is the government's job purely to defend those rights and to not strip them from you. That is then the inversion, bizarro world Superman. That is the inversion of what the government is meant to do. That is evil by its definition. And it is wrong. It is what happened in China, and now our ruling class and the evil people in this country. By the way, it's very evil to do what they're doing to Joe Biden right now. Joe Biden should be in a nursing home. He clearly has no one who loves him in his life, and they are using evil in order to export what they have created in a laboratory in China and export that here because they want to control us. That is the goal, ladies and gentlemen. It's happened in Canada because Canada does not have the type of rights and freedom movement that we have in this country. We are deeply hopeful that the Canadians stand up and strike down the tyranny that is happening right now on their government level. It is so important also that we stand. It is obviously so important that we stand with freedom movements around the world. You saw the number of people marching in Brussels this weekend. You saw what's happening in the UK right now. Scotland now dropping all their COVID mandates. Ireland dropping all their COVID mandates. The Danish prime minister dropping all of the COVID mandates. People understood what was happening far too late, but they're getting it, and now they're fighting back. They're seeing the populist movement, our movement, and people are fighting back. It is encouraging, and so please keep fighting. God bless all of you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, our third story here. Black voters dumping Joe Biden. Reading to you from Red State here. Black voters throwing Biden under the bus, under the truck, maybe metaphorically, up in Canada. Under that truck, big old 50,000 trucks barreling down the road for freedom in Canada. Black voters in America chucking old, diseased Joe Biden under that beautiful cavalry there. All right, let's read the article here. If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black. Joe Biden, March 22, 2020. You will all remember that saying. Biden later apologized for the comment, just like he apologized to Peter Doocy, after causing a firestorm. I shouldn't have been such a wise guy, he said, LOL. But what he meant is crystal clear. If you're black, you automatically vote Democrat. Not so fast. As we reported Sunday, the article goes on to say, just 1 year of Biden and his policies, 72% of America thinks the country is headed in the wrong direction. That's astounding. It's almost like Biden tried to mess up the country and then, oh, wait. Biden's approval ratings continue free fall, swirling downward, down the liberal toilet. Who wrote this? What is this? Is this an opinion piece? Mike Miller. All right, Mike Miller. I think I used to work with Mike Miller at The Blaze. All right, so here we go. Black voters specifically, in a recent Associated Press NORAC poll, Center for Public Affairs Research, shorten your names, people, shorten your names. In the recent AP poll, as reported by ABC News, just 6 in 10 Black Americans say they approve of Joe Brandon's job performance, down significantly from 9 in 10 who approved of his job performance 6 months after his miserable presidency. George Hart, a professor and faculty advisor at the student chapter of the NAACP, Benedict College, a historically black institution in Columbia, told ABC News that he was both disillusioned and angered by Biden. "I'm perplexed," this is a quote. "At some points, I'm angry. I'm trying to see if there's anything redeeming. I'm just so disillusioned, I do not know what to say." And why shouldn't Hart be disillusioned? Or any black American? The angry and disillusioned Democrat Party is doing what for their community? LBJ's disastrous war on poverty in 1964, truly a shocking point in the turn for America towards socialism, that devastated the black community. And I gotta tell you, it's tough reading an article like this. I live in Tampa, Florida, but just 1 year ago, I was still in Washington, D.C., in a community that is majority minority, all right? I would say that there wasn't a single white person in like 3 blocks in any direction from where I was living in Washington, D.C. Doesn't really matter to me in so much as I was able to witness something really magical happen, actually, as I was living there. In the best times of the Trump economy, when you were seeing the historic unemployment numbers and the historic gap between unemployment between white and black Americans, you may remember that was the lowest in American history. I think it was down like 1% or 2% between unemployed black and unemployed white Americans. I think the lowest black unemployment in the history of America, if I'm recalling correctly. I was able to watch a young troubled youth in our neighborhood. His name was Wellington, and he was tough. He had a tough life. Didn't have a father. He had taken to all manner of nefarious. Let's just call it like street economics, selling drugs, selling stolen merchandise, things like that. He had done this during the Obama years. And then during the Trump years, there were so many jobs in Washington, D.C. that he got hired. He got hired by Denny's. Denny's opened up a store down the road from us, Denny's, the breakfast place, and he was able to get hired there and get a job. And that dude came barreling down the road. He was friends with Kate and I. Came barreling down the road. Wellington comes barreling down the road in a Denny's apron, like so proud of the fact that he got a job at like a corporation, like a corporate chain, and he got a job and he'd be able to make an honest living. Like, this was the most exciting day of his life, and obviously Kate and I supported him there. We went to go support him in his new job, and he was very, very happy until, of course, COVID shut down all indoor dining for years in Washington, D.C. He lost that job, and now presumably, based on what I've heard, he was shot in a street altercation. I think he's still alive, but it's a very depressing story. But this just goes to show you exactly how much the economics on the ground affects people's lives, and how much your poor economic policy and your socialist communist policy truly destroys people's lives and destroys them on a personal and human level. Here in this segment, I wanted to show you a clip from this last week. Chuck Todd talking about the polling that Joe Biden has in the eyes of the American public, including black, white, Latino, all the American public, and how poorly his job performance has been in the realm of competency. Let's play clip 2.
I think we have young Mr. Doocy with us right now. You heard Dana's comments and everyone's comments, Peter. Have you been called by the
stupid son of a bitch, Mr. Unity strikes again. In all seriousness, Joe Biden really shouldn't be casting stones from an extremely
I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
All right, so I think we finally hit a moment where we had a flub. We were doing so good. We're live for like 40 minutes, doing so good. What I'm looking for is the Face the Nation. What I'm looking for is the Face the Nation, the sort of like polling groups. Okay, well, I'm being told that unfortunately those clips aren't loaded, even though they're here in the rundown. So what can you do, ladies and gentlemen? We're doing a live show. We've built a live show all for you, and we're doing our best. But ladies and gentlemen, what the clips are going to show, and I can read you exactly what it shows, is that Joe Biden's no longer seen as a competent commander-in-chief. He is no longer seen as having any command over the economy, and that he's listening to far too many liberals. Joe Biden's disastrous first year in office, not a single participant in the Face the Nation focus group believes that America is in a better place, and that the person that I love the very most is a black grandmother from Georgia. Her name was Mildred, and she was saying that she can't even afford bacon any longer for her grandchildren. Ladies and gentlemen, do you want to affect people? Do you want to ruin? I mean, if you really want to show how much you are affecting people's lives and exactly how broken the system is, then try and not afford bacon for your grandkids. I have a child. I don't have any grandchildren. But if I couldn't afford food for my children, this was Mildred from Georgia. The exact like a black grandmother, Democrat, Biden voter from Georgia saying that she can't afford bacon for her kids. Ladies and gentlemen, you really, truly have lost the plot. When you can't afford food for your children, that is revolution time in the country. That is the time when everything grinds to a halt. You pierce the veil, which is what you call it in politics, when you have made such bad errors in judgment and policy that you've destroyed people's lives and you're hurting people. And then you get change. And that is the change that we want. We want to rip down this corrupt, broken old system. We want to replace it with a country that values these three things above all else: God, family, country. God, family, country. That is what we seek on this show. We do not want our fellow Americans to be hurt. Black, white, purple, whatever. We do not want truckers who are carrying products to their families to be hurt. All right? We do not want reporters at the White House who are asking about inflation, which is the number one highest tax that you could possibly get in this country. The highest tax ever levied by the federal government is inflation. Taking the value of your dollar and shrinking it. That is an invisible tax that is so brutal on families and is so tough on people. And all Peter Doocy did was ask about inflation. He was called an SOB for it by the president. It's a disgusting, disgusting regime. It feels as though we're living under a hostile power, doesn't it? It feels as though we're living under a hostile power in this country. It's very depressing, and quite frankly, we're sick of it. And it's why people across the nation are standing up. You saw tens of thousands march at the March for Life. You saw tens of thousands march at the Defeat the Mandates March. And you're seeing millions of people waking up now. And black voters are abandoning Joe Biden, and good for them. All good and decent people should want is God, family, country, and for our leaders to prioritize our nation in that order. Our political leaders are far more concerned about their own investments, corrupt investments in Ukraine to get their cokehead kids rich than they are about our own border. Ukraine's border matters. They'll deploy our sons and daughters to Ukraine's border so that their kids can get millions, and your kid who was serving in our military may get a tombstone. It's straight up evil. It's straight up evil. And we must rip the power away from this regime. That starts in November. And we are going to fight, ladies and gentlemen, for one thing and one thing alone: to save America. Save America. That is the goal of this show. That's the goal of this podcast. That's the goal of the Benny Show. That's the goal of you and this audience. Thank you for joining us on our exciting little, again, jump into our new live format here on this show. We had a couple of we had a smoother show than we've had any other time. So big ups to Sam and ALX and everyone who's making all of this possible on our end. But most importantly, big ups to you. We are the movement that saves America. All of us talking together, sharing information, and uniting. We're going to rip down the rotted, old, diseased temple that these people have built out of corruption. The Pelosi's, the Bidens, the Kerrys, the Obamas. We're going to rip that down, and we're going to replace it with something beautiful and new and something that is going to truly, truly inspire and save America. That's been our show today. See you guys live later today. Thanks for watching.
Hey. Let's go, Brandon. Hey.